Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Gidigopadan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Jamunamai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai Brihat Madanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, I don't see the electric board lit up, so I guess we're without that this morning. So I will chant, we're up to text 9, but text 9 doesn't have a purport, so I'll chant that, the Sanskrit, and read the translation. Then I'll chant 10, and we'll do the word for word together, because it would be probably too difficult for everybody to follow without the board up there. And then I'll just read the purport and speak. Okay. Prasana Vaktram Nalina Yatekshanam Kadamba Kinjalka Pisangavasasam Lasan Maharatna Hiranmaya Gadam Spuran Maharatna Kirita Kundalam. Translation. His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of the kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are all made of gold, set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. Unidrarit pankaja karnikalaye yogeshvara rashtapita padapalavam Shri Lakshanam Kastuba Ratnakadan Haram Amlana Lakshmya Vanamalayachitam. Okay, and word for word. Unidra, blooming. Rit, heart. Pankaja, lotus flower. Karnika alaye, on the surface of the whirl. Yoga Ishvaraha, the great mystics. Astapita, placed. Padaplavam, lotus feet. Shri, the goddess of fortune, or a beautiful calf. Lakshanam, marked in that way. Kastuba, the Kastuba jewel. Ratna, other jewels. Kandaram, on the shoulder. Amlana, quite fresh. Lakshmya, beauty. Vanamalaya, by a flower garland. Achitam, spread over. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His lotus feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is the Kastuba jewel, engraved with a beautiful calf, and there are other jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. Purport. The ornaments, flowers, clothing, and all other decorations on the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead are identical with the body of the Lord. None of them are made of material ingredients. Otherwise, there would be no chance of their decorating the body of the Lord. As such, in the Paravyoma, spiritual varieties are also distinguished from material variegatedness. Om Gyanatamanandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swamrupagadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam. So, does anybody know what the power of Yoma is? Right. Yeah, Paravyoma means spiritual sky. Vyoma means sky, like the Vyomasura demon, sky demon. Para means superior. So Paravyoma means the superior sky, the spiritual sky. And so it's making the point here that, Prabhupada's making the point here, that all the paraphernalia, everything in the spiritual sky, it's identical with the body of the Lord. At least these decorations are. And it's not material. It's, as it says here, it's spiritual varieties distinguished from material varieties. So the first place we get information about the power of Yoma, the spiritual sky, is in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And there it is stated, it's quoted, Prabhupada quotes the Brahma Samhita, and he says in the Brahma Samhita, which describes the Supreme Abode as the Lord as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, which means it's a place where everything is full of spiritual bliss. All the varieties manifest there are of the quality of spiritual bliss. Nothing is material. And that variegatedness is a spiritual expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's something about the nature of the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky. Actually, in the previous purport, there's some more detailed information given about the spiritual sky, or specifically Krishna's planet, Goloka Vrindavan, which is referred to in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, which is a place where all desires are fulfilled. All desires in the sense that, in the spiritual world, as those of you who are here from Mangalarti heard, that it's inhabited by Nitya Mukta living entities, eternally liberated living entities, and they're just happy to be serving Krishna. And that's their life, serving Krishna, and they're completely satisfied with that. So their desires are all spiritual desires. It's not like in the spiritual world, the desires that are being fulfilled are not a desire for a new Mercedes-Benz or a new house in Beverly Hills or something like that. No. It's, I want to love Krishna in this way. I want to express my love for Krishna by serving him in this way. That desire is fulfilled. And another devotee is feeling, that same devotee is feeling the next day or the next moment or whatever, that actually I'd like to express my love for Krishna by serving Krishna in this way. That desire is fulfilled, because that's the nature of that energy. You see, all the desires are fulfilled, because they're all spiritual desires. They're all pure devotees. So why not? Krishna's happy to do that. Another feature of the Chintamani Dham, or Krishna's abode, is it's a place of it's made of touchstone, and there are trees there called desire trees, and they supply any type of edible upon demand. And I even heard Prabhupada on one lecture say you could to speak of like different types of fruit or something like that, which what you normally expect to get from a tree. You could even get a samosa. I heard Prabhupada say it in a lecture. So it's the original takeaway, drive-in takeaway. And there are cows known as Sarabi cows, which supply a limitless supply of milk. And Krishna is served there by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, etc. So that's the, and there's more nice description there. I'll read a bit more. We sing this every morning, so for the benefit of those who don't know the translation to the Sanskrit prayers that we're chanting every morning, here's a little few points. It says here, the Lord is accustomed to play his flute. Vainam kvanantam. So every morning when you're singing Vainam kvanantam, now you know what you're saying. Vainam kvanantam is referring to Lord Krishna's flute. His transcendental form is most attractive in all the three worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals. Adavindalayat. The color of his body is like the color of the clouds. Bharavatam samasitam Buddha sundaram. That's what we're singing every morning. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. And it mentions here in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Krishna only gives a small hint of his personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. And for a vivid description, it's given in the Brahma. You can go to the Brahma Samhita and get more information there. So that's something about the power of Yom, the spiritual sky, and the topmost planet in the spiritual sky is Goloka Vrindavan. And aside from that, there are many other Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. They're presided on by expansions of Lord Krishna, like Narayan and Vishnu and Janardhan, and there's innumerable, actually. There's innumerable, I've heard Prabhupada says, innumerable Vaikuntha planets. They're inconceivably big and like that. Now, aside from the power of Yom, there is the material sky, and that's where we are. We're in the material sky. And it's just a very, sometimes we hear the Ekapad Vibhuti. It's referred to as Ekapad Vibhuti, Tripad Vibhuti, and Ekapad Vibhuti. The Tripad Vibhuti refers to the spiritual sky, and the Ekapad, Eka meaning one, it's like 1/4 of the entire creation. So, for, just to get a handle on it, that ratio is given. I don't know if it's meant to be like an accurate mathematical ratio, but that's the idea that is there, that it's a fraction of the spiritual sky. And we're in that. We're one of, I've heard Prabhupada say, innumerable material universes. There are innumerable material universes, and Prabhupada says, and there are innumerable planets in these material universes. So we're in one of the material universes and one of the innumerable planets. And we've been here for a long time. We've been in the material universe for a long time. I'm going to read you a paragraph that's an excerpt from a lecture Prabhupada gave on the Chaitanya Charitamrita in 1967, where he says something about our situation, which is very interesting and very relevant. So he goes, we've been discussing two kinds of living entities. One class, Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. They never come to this material world. They are eternally liberated. Okay? Another class, just like we, conditioned. We are eternally conditioned. Eternally conditioned means we do not know when we have been conditioned like this, when we became conditioned like this. It is not possible to trace out the history. Because the living entity by nature, he's not conditioned, but actually we see we are conditioned, and there's no possibility to trace out the history. Now here it comes. This is really amazing. It says, many, many Brahma's lives, not only one Brahma, there are so many Brahmas changed, and we are conditioned. So, therefore we're called eternally conditioned. Time immemorial. Immemorial means that, what does immemorial mean? What would be a dictionary definition of that word? Immemorial, yeah. Yeah, you can't even calculate it. Because, our Brahma is the smallest. I know, I've heard Prabhupada say our universe is the smallest. I don't know if our Brahma has the shortest lifespan. But anyway, he lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. And Prabhupada's saying here, many, many Brahma's lives. Not only one, but there are so many Brahmas changed. So how many is many, many? For argument's sake, let's say it's 100. Okay, many, many Brahmas. So if we've been in this material world for many, many Brahmas' lives, that's 311 trillion times 100, that's 31 quadrillion. And if in each lifetime, just for argument's sake, our lifespan was say 100 years, okay, then you divide that by 100. So we've taken 311 trillion births here in the material world by that calculation, And then we've been in here for a long time. So it probably, if we believe in this philosophy, if we believe what we're hearing is true, and we're considering, practicing Krishna consciousness, it might be a good idea to do it seriously. Because we're in a predicament here. We've been in this material world for a long time. And, we're not going to get out unless we've heard this many, many times. We don't get out unless we become pure devotees, right? You don't get out of the material world until you become a pure devotee. So we have to really, seriously think about what's going on, over the big picture, and try to get serious. There is one option is somebody could say, well, I could see here in the material world there's some people are really suffering, and some creatures seem to be really suffering, but then there are other people that don't seem to be doing so bad. And there are descriptions in the Vedic literature of higher planets, higher planetary systems, such as Svargaloka, and even beyond, there's Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. These, the people up there, they live for a really long time. I've heard Prabhupada say they have facilities that are thousands of times better than here on this middle Earth, middle planetary system. So, why not try for that? I mean, there is that verse in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, Naikatma Prabhu quoted it the other day. Ordvam gachanti sattvasto, majam tishtanti rajasa, jagana guna vrittishta, ado gachanti tamasa. That those in the mode of goodness, they go up. So why not try for that? There's a verse here in the 14th chapter where it says here that when one dies, this is it, when one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains the pure higher planets of the great sages. And Prabhupada says in the purport, in the mode, if one in the goodness attains higher planetary systems like Brahmaloka, Janaloka, and there he enjoys godly happiness. So that sounds pretty good, right? Doesn't it, to you, to enjoy godly happiness? That's further described, actually, or in the Bhagavad Gita, is described earlier in the 9th chapter, where Krishna says, he says, those who study the Vedas, that's a good thing to do, isn't it? Drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Right? So that sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? Sounds a little bit good, but Bhaktidevan's smart. He reads Bhagavad Gita all the time. We see his Bhagavad Gita well marked when he's working in Govinda's restaurant there. No, well, Krishna goes on to say that when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. See, in other words, that program, Krishna's not recommending that. Those who seek heavenly sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So in other words, not a good idea. Earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I think it's 8:16, he says, Brahma bhuvana loka punar avartinarjuna mamupecha tukuntaya punar janma nivijate. That from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. See, so it's not a good idea to try to just elevate oneself to some better standard of material life, because it's going to be temporary. And even Brahma, I've heard, I think it's stated in the Bhagavatam in one purport that we take our first birth when we come into the material world as Lord Brahma. But obviously we don't stay there. You can go from Lord Brahma, you can sink down to some very low, abominable forms of life. So it's not a good program. It's risky. It's not, Krishna doesn't recommend it. What he does recommend is that one tries to attain his abode and then that person will never have to take birth again. So that's what we should be, thinking about or wanting to do. Now the question is, okay, well, how do we do that? Because like in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, Krishna says, Daivahi esha gunamayi, mama maya durachaya. He says, this divine energy of mine consisting of the three modes of material nature, it's durachaya, means it's very difficult to overcome. So, where's the hope? We're stuck, right? We're here in this material world. We've been here for many, many Brahma's lifetimes. Krishna himself is saying that this material energy is durachaya. It's practically insurmountable. That was the old translation. That was the word for word. Insurmountable. So, what to do? What to do? Well, the solution is Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Brajet. That in the, I think it's the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or 11th or 12th canto, there's that verse where it says that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one gets liberation and can go back to Godhead. The whole verse goes, Kaler dosanade rajan, astihe komahad guna, kirtanadeva krishna sha mukta bandha, mukta sangha parambajet. That this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. It's an ocean of undesirable situations. Right? Kaler dosanade rajan. But there's one good thing. Astihi eko mahad. There's one good thing about being a human being in the age of Kali, and that is that simply by chanting Kirtanat Eva Krishna, certainly just by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Mukta Sangha, one can become free from all material association and go back to Godhead. See? So that's the hope, and that's what we should be focusing on. Prabhupada also expresses that very nicely, the same point, in a purport here to the 12th, it's in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and I think it's in the purport to text 10. And this kind of gives a few sentences in this purport kind of wants to give the big picture. Prabhupada was expert at that. He could present like the big picture in a few sentences. And here's one example of that. He says, the Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yagyas, sacrifices, for the satisfaction of Vishnu. So that's a lot of information right there. For starters, it's saying that, there's a Lord. And this is what you just heard there is the purpose of the material world. The whole purpose of the material world is to give the living entities who misuse their minute independence, their free will, and acted in rebellion or in defiance to the will of Krishna. It's an opportunity. It's to give them a chance, an opportunity to rectify themselves. You see, so that's the purpose of the material world. He's created it to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yagyas or sacrifices for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Sacrifice what? Well, sacrifice sense gratification. Perform activities which, in the course of performing them, you're sacrificing your sense gratification for the purpose of trying to do something to please Vishnu or Krishna, which is the, samsiddhi or haritosanam, to please Vishnu or Krishna. That's the highest perfection of life. Reading on. So it says here, so that while in the material world they can live very comfortably without anxiety, and after finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. Now Prabhupada says that is the whole program for the conditioned soul. See? So that's the big principle. That this material creation is it's an opportunity for the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yagya, sacrifice, so that they can purify their consciousness and return home back to Godhead. Okay? Now, at different times, there's different yagyas that are meant to be performed. Like we're in the Kali Yuga. See, in the Satya Yuga, the yagya for that age, the sacrifice for that age was meditation. And then in the Treta Yuga, it was sacrifices, fire sacrifices. And then the next stage is temple worship. But we're in the Kali Yuga, so Prabhupada's going to, now in this next couple sentences, Prabhupada nicely describes the specific application of this principle in this day and age. And it is, he says, by performance of yagya, in the age of Kali, the Sankirtan yagya, the chanting of the names of God, is recommended by the Vedic scriptures. And this transcendental system was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men in this age. Okay? So that's a big sentence right there. That the yagya that we're supposed to be doing, actually Prabhupada once said about the Bhagavad Gita, minimum words, maximum solution. And Prabhupada wrote like that too. Minimum words, maximum knowledge, maximum solution. In that one sentence is like saying so much. We're in the age of Kali. The Sankirtan Yagya, the chanting of the holy names of God, is recommended by the Vedic scriptures. And it's the transcendental system. It was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men. That's it. It's kind of all you need to know, right? Then it goes on to say, actually it's all, and it elaborates upon that a little bit. But Yeah, so that's the program. All men will be delivered by taking part in the Sankirtan Yajna, which was introduced by Lord Chaitanya. It's the Yuga Dharma, the process for this age. Now, does that mean, when it says here Sankirtan, Prabhupada specifically does say chanting, congregational chanting of the holy names, and this purport mentions that, but it's broader than that. Sankirtan is broader than that. The understanding is, in a letter Prabhupada wrote to Rabindra Swarup, I forgot the date, but Rabindra Swarup asked the question. He said, Prabhupada, is it okay if, when we have like a permission to do so, if we have like, say, a certain number of people, can they all do just book distribution rather than have devotees chanting? Is it okay to have devotees just do book distribution? Is that also Sankirtan? And Prabhupada said, yeah, that's Sankirtan. That's Sankirtan. And he said, don't narrowly understand Sankirtan. Chanting is Sankirtan. Book distribution is Sankirtan. Prabhupada didn't specifically say that in this letter, but, Prasadam distribution is Sankirtan. Even Dita worship is Sankirtan, in the sense that devotees working cooperatively for the glorification of the Lord, that's Sankirtan. Okay? Prabhupada did say in that letter, though, interestingly enough, he said, but if it's possible to have, a couple devotees chanting, he said, then do that, because that will increase the book distribution. I found that interesting when I read that. So, these different activities that we're doing, they're all part of the Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, and by wholeheartedly participating in any or all of them, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And, we're on the path back home, back to Godhead. Now, what time is it? 8 o'clock. Okay, I thought I had more to say, but maybe I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah.
In Krishna's pastime, we hear quite a few examples of different sacrifices being performed.
A few examples of what? Quite a few examples of what?
Quite different sacrifices being performed.
Right.
Like including Govardhan Puja or Rajasuya sacrifice. Do we have examples of deity worship, considering that the pastimes were happening in Dwapara Yuga?
Do we have example of
deity worship?
Deity worship in Krishna's pastimes? I can't think of any. Can anybody help me with this? Are there examples of deity worship in Krishna's pastimes? Microphone?
Yeah, this may sound a little humorous, but we do have an example where Krishna worships himself. He's a deity. He's a supreme deity. And when he would wake up in the morning, one of the first things he would do is worship himself. There's a number of things that Narada Muni discovered when he went and visited the various palaces of Krishna. And in one of the chapters, it actually gives the program that Krishna went through. So it's chanting and this, but also he did self-worship. Prabhupada mentions that he worshipped himself.
Okay.
You seem to be uncertain. He's a deity. He is the
deity.
deity.
No, but I think what he's referring to is like,
Do you mean one which is made of some particular...
right, yeah, with some so-called material substance installed in a temple.
Transcendental substance.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's that, in that past time where Krishna kidnaps Rukmini, it describes how Rukmini was going to the temple of Durga, wasn't it? So it sounds like deity worship was there. Is that example?
Definitely.
And I know I heard, what's his name? Jarasandha was supposedly worshipping Vishnu, believe it or not. But I can't. I think the best example is that of Rukmini when she was, before her marriage, she was going to the temple of Durga. But yeah, that's a point.
So you're talking about the worship in those days. My question for you is, how about the Govardhan Hill worship?
The Govardhan Hill worship?
Yeah, it's Krishna himself. So is there an example of date worship on those days?
Was there worship of a deity was the question, yeah. And she's asking, what about the worshipping of Govardhan Hill? Would that be considered a deity worship? Well, Krishna, in the Krishna book, it says, Krishna says that the hill is non-different from me. So, yeah, in a sense. But, in terms of like temples and deities, there's not a lot of, I can't think of, aside from that one example I gave of, the Shringa.
Wasn't Krishna's father going to worship a demigod before Krishna said, hey, offer everything to Govardhan Hill? Is that deity worship?
It was supposed to be an Indra Yajna, something like that. Yeah, so it seems like there's evidence for worship of demigods, but in terms of like the mention of worship of deities of Vishnu or Krishna, I can't think of any off the top of my head. Yeah.
Haribol Prabhu, if I'm not mistaken, in the Krishna book, I think during the Battle of Kurukshetra, Balaram visited the temple of Balaji. Because
Balaram visited?
I think it mentions that he went on a pilgrimage. Balaram goes on a pilgrimage during the Battle of Kurukshetra to go take darshan of Balaji.
Oh, it specifically says Balaji?
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Did you quote this verse? Maybe I didn't hear it, but it was connected with what you were saying. This divine energy of mine, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome.
That much I quoted. I
didn't
say the Sanskrit, I didn't say the second part.
But I don't know if you quoted the end of it. However, this divine energy of mine consisting of the three modes of material nature, very difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. I don't know whether you said that. If you did, pardon me.
No, I didn't. And thank you for bringing it up, because I should have. That's the second part of it, and that's where the Sankirtan comes in. That's the surrender. For us, surrender in this day and age that we're living in now is being willing to participate in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. If you're doing that, that's surrender. And that, according to Krishna, will enable you to go, cross beyond those three modes of material nature.
There's another verse which Prabhupada probably quotes more than any other verses, and that is, abandon all varieties of religion and or dharma, and just surrender unto me. I will free you from all sinful reactions. So those sinful reactions can hold us back, hinder us, and because sometimes you can be crippled, sometimes you can get a terrible disease in a sinful reaction, sometimes we can have some type of an injury, sometimes we can have some problem in our business, and those can hold us back because they create friction of one sort or another, and that friction becomes a stumbling block to going forward in spiritual life. Of course, a person who is already very advanced, it may not be a stumbling block because he sees it as the hand of God helping and enabling him to go further. So if he doesn't see it as a stumbling block, he sees it rather as a means to learning something new by virtue of Krishna's love for him or grace upon him.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I think we could probably, Grunga Prema, and then we'll finish up.
Thank you for the wonderful class. So you were mentioning the Paramvyoma, spiritual sky, in your lecture. So is this spiritual sky has any relationship with the material sky?
With the material sky. Well, I mean, Prabhupada did say repeatedly, everything in this material world is a perverted reflection of what's in the spiritual world. So I think it would be correct to say that this material sky is a perverted reflection of the spiritual sky. But, I mean, beyond that, I don't know much more how it's be related, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Grunchard, yeah. Want to add something to that?
First of all, I didn't mention before, Prabhu, I want to thank you for this class. It was very well organized, and it had many nice spiritual points, one after another. It did not divert itself to all sorts of external and sometimes mundane. It stuck continuously to Srila Prabhupada's purports, and that is what purifies our hearts. I've heard many classes where devotees go off on so many tangents which have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, and that's why I applaud you for doing this. And we should all, actually, because when a class of this sort comes and all we hear is about Prabhupada, we're getting very purified. You see, that's what purification is, to be completely washed with the, the lotus water that Srila Prabhupada, through his expression of words, is cleansing us with. And you're repeating that, okay? I couldn't find anything that Sai Baba said. It was all Prabhupada. I've heard classes where people say, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but you shouldn't say it, period. That's it, you know. So I thank you very much. I was going to say something else, but all I can say is that please keep up this type of, kind of...
Prabhupada-focused.
Pardon?
Prabhupada-focused kind of...
Yeah. And as a guideline to where we should be going. And Prabhupada is pleased by that. That's why he wrote these books, because we're so stupid and ignorant and dark and full of darkness and full of blindness. How do you get out of it unless you actually associate with one who doesn't have that? And if he doesn't have that and you quote it, you're doing the whole humanity a great service, because we're all being purified, and that purification we're taking outside to others who, when they hear us, they get purified to some extent also. So it goes beyond the temple. The temple is to take what Prabhupada has put in those books all over the world, and we're all doing it in some degree. So therefore we should all feel very blessed, very benefited, and very thankful that some devotees are really taking Prabhupada's books super seriously, and as a result, so many devotees are gradually improving their spiritual lives. Confirmed. I think that was confirmed. Is that a confirmation?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Really. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Mahara ki jai. That was pretty fun.
Right on.